Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and welcome back to Every Version Ever. Today we're starting a new mini-series looking at Christmas-themed versions of stories we've already covered on the podcast. To kick off this batch of episodes, I'm joined by Rachel Wagner of the Hallmarkies podcast to talk about a Hallmark-esque, Hallmark-adjacent movie, a Christmas-themed adaptation of Little Women from 2012 called The March Sisters at Christmas. And when I say Hallmark-adjacent, I mean it was a TV movie rom-com that aired on Lifetime. It had a similar production and release to a Hallmark movie, but there was nothing about the story in this film that would have ever aired on Hallmark, and it was definitely not a family-friendly movie. Which I did not expect going in. I was kind of shocked at how adult and terrible it was. And not terrible in an, oh my, they made a naughty joke, I'm clutching my pearls kind of terrible. I mean, it was a, this script is awful and I absolutely loathe every character in this entire film kind of terrible. Obviously, going into a movie that I assumed was a wholesome Hallmark-esque rom-com, I had to ask the podcast Queen of Christmas to join me. Rachel has been podcasting about Hallmark movies for years now, so she was the obvious choice to bring on for this episode. But as we watched this and kind of texted back and forth about how bad it was, she suggested I also watch a thematically similar film from 2018 that also did Little Women in modern day, and we just talk about both. And I had planned to do a podcast on the 2018 Little Women in the future anyway. It was on my list to cover the next time I got back to Little Women versions for the podcast, so I figured it was a good idea, and now I'm glad we decided to do both and get them out of the way. It wasn't as bad as March Sisters at Christmas, but it was still bad in its own way. But, like I've said many times before, sometimes the worst movies make for the best conversations, and in that respect, I am really glad we watched these, because as bad as they were, I had so much fun talking about them. Well, let's start with the March Sisters at Christmas because that was the original intent for this podcast, and we can go on to the other one after. I mean, we'll probably go back and forth because there's
Mm.
stuff we could compare, but with the March Sisters at Christmas, you had never seen this.
I had never seen this. I'd heard about it, but I had never seen it.
I was kind of surprised because it was one of those like I think it was Lifetime, one of those quote unquote rom-com Christmas movies.
Yeah, but it's way back in 2012, so it would have been before the podcast and before I was really like the TV movie queen. So that's why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's terrible. I hated it. I hated them both so much.
When I first started watching, I was like, "Oh, this is better than I expected," because I was expecting like terrible acting, extreme cheese, but then it went downhill quick, and then it was
I wish it
somehow
had been
worse.
extreme cheese. I like cheese. That's where we're different. I like the cheese, but this was just it's something we probably want to dive into is why does Little Women just not work in modern? It just doesn't. I maybe somebody will prove me wrong someday, but we've had two swings and they've been both spectacular failures.
There is technically a third one that it's completely different. It's like a web series, and I haven't watched it in years. What was it called? It was like a big thing at the time, probably around the time that this was made.
Oh, was it or sort of like that what was it called? Like Finding Mr. Darcy or whatever it was called. The web series. There was one with Pride and Prejudice. It was probably right around that time.
It might have been made by the same people. I'm gonna have to look it up because I know, like, it's in my mental list of ones to eventually get to. The only thing I really remember was I think Meg was a lesbian. Not that that's makes a huge difference, but that's like the only thing I remember about the entire series. It
Oh, it's the
lasted for a
Lizzie
while.
Bennet Chronicles is
Oh,
what the
yeah,
what
I
the
think it was by the same people.
okay. Or Diaries. Lizzie Bennet
Yeah,
Diaries. Yeah,
yeah.
that's what it was called.
Because there was like a whole series of series like that. Because they did there was a Frankenstein one, there was a Peter Pan one, and they kept
Ooh.
getting progressively worse and worse.
Well, I mean, why do you think that that Little Women just doesn't update well to modern?
Well, I don't know. Like at least for the March Sisters of Christmas, the thing that made it so terrible was that they just were trying so hard to be edgy. Like this is not an edgy story.
Both of them, I would say.
To some extent, yes, but the March Sisters at Christmas time, it just I mean, not that we're not going to do this in any order. So, like the whole thing where the scene that they substituted for the diary burning or the journal burning
Mhm,
scene, having Amy, like, okay, so Joe is a ghost tweeter in this,
mhm,
which is so, okay, whatever. So, her, like, one of her clients is some pop star, and to get back at her, Amy steals her phone and tweets nudes, supposedly as
mhm.
this pop star. But like, this is a crime.
Right.
Is this not a crime?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? It was
Yeah.
like, what is this?
Yeah. And like, not to mention, like, yes, she's a famous person, but she's still a person. Like, so
Yes,
she's not being just mean to Joe. She's being mean to a totally different stranger who like is going to be
exactly.
impacted by this. Like, so then it's it's like they were acting like this Tatiana person was like a horrible person who shouldn't even be considered in this equation, which was funny to me. And but I don't know. I mean, they were both just the worst. I mean, there's no to me like really comparing the two, but like this 2018 one when Joe is so insufferable in that one. I mean, she is just
Mm.
I mean, she is so rude when all Amy wants to do is just go to the stupid movies with her. And she's so rude that I was like completely on team Amy. I'm like, she deserves to have like I rarely like Joe is always a little bit insufferable. She's always a little bossy, a little
Uh-huh.
like a little oblivious to others' feelings. But I don't think I've ever felt as sort of on Team Amy as I did in the 2018 one. She was just the worst. Yes, the in this March one, what they decided for the book burning is absolutely ridiculous and stupid. But
Hmm.
but oh my gosh, like Joe was just so annoying in the 2018 one. I just wanted to punch her in the nose. It was so annoying to
She was
me.
in both of them. Like
Oh,
they're kind of equal to me. They were just she was
you're
in the
right.
2012 one, she's just like angry at everything. Like literally the only person I
Yeah.
liked in this movie was Beth. Everyone else is just, oh, good grief.
I
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, this 2018 Little Women is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in a movie theater. And I was at the premiere. It's actually premiered in Utah. Because it's like a faith it's like it's not a faith-based film, but it is like made by those people because there's nothing really like faith-based in it. But anyway, that's why they had the premiere here. And so I'm sitting there, they like fed us dinner and everything. And I go in to watch this movie. They'd given us like swag and stuff. I mean, I think because I love Little Women, I think I'm gonna, enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I pretty much hated every decision made. Like, the only thing that I guess I liked I mean, I do think in both movies, the Professor Bear is pretty good. That's about it.
I
I
could give
think,
it that, yeah.
I think in both of them, he's pretty swoony and like pretty good. But uh, I mean, it's just terrible. I hate everything. It's just, oh, it's bad.
If I was to watch what, even though it's longer, I would choose to watch the 2018 one over the 2012
Oh,
or whatever, because like I kind of just felt like it was boring. Like I didn't hate watching it. It was just
oh.
like, I'm bored. This is not good.
And their decision because they tried to make this thing edgy as well, and their like thing is to make it's so weird how both of these movies their answer to Meg, because Meg in the book is kind of she really wants to fit in, she wants to be accepted, by
Hmm.
people, she's tired of being poor, kind of a thing. So their translation of that in both movies is to have her be kind of promiscuous and like be kind of like and she in the 2018 she makes out with this guy in the basement of the school, and then
Hmm.
she's like, I don't know if I want to be part of this. And the guy's like, well, there's plenty of other where that's coming from. And just like, and then and then I think it was Lori or somebody is like mentioning, it's like, oh well, she's homeschooled. It's like, what, are you kidding me? And I just And I really do think that the Joe is just unconscionably insufferable in
Yeah.
2018. She is just so annoying. And it kind of made me think like I think the archetypes just don't transition to modern very well. I think because maybe we have more individual autonomy now, right? And so you aren't sort of forced in these different roles. So it makes it hard to then have these characters that their main personality is not fitting into these different roles, right? So it's
Hmm.
like Amy being kind of, stuck up, Meg wanting to be accepted, Joe being a free spirit and independent, Beth being kind of the sacrificial lamb of the family, the one to bring the tears. I just don't think it translates to modern storytelling because we're just so fluid that like what it's bucking up against just doesn't work, you know? It's like, why are you behaving this way? Why are you doing this? And oh,
I can see that argument. I think there could be a way to make it work, but you have to embrace the cheese because inevitably, if you take this story and make it modern, it's going to be cheesy because Joe is like an over the top character.
mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to make like I have some friends who they kind of are these characters. There was four daughters. They were all very imaginative, all homeschooled. So, like, I can see a way to make this work, but at the same time, it's not going to be the same, and it can only be like it can't be like an absolute direct translation of this story, and it's going to be cheesy.
Yeah, like don't even try with the edge. Like the edge is
No, no, no,
so
no, no.
annoying.
That's what ruins it.
Yeah.
That's what ruined both of these. Especially the March Sisters at Christmas. I was so annoyed through that whole movie. I just kept getting more and more annoyed. And by the time of the stealing the phone and tweeting from the celebrity's account, I gave up taking notes because I was taking notes through the whole thing. I was just like, oh my word, I hate all of these people.
Well, and Meg is so annoying in that one. The way that she like condescends to her sisters is
Uh-huh.
just so irritating. Like Beth wants to help with the renovating of the house. How dare she? So Meg makes her this vision board and then she gives her like crayons and is like, here, you get to fill in the colors. This is a 20-year-old woman. Like, what?
Oh,
It
that's
was
another thing. The ages. I was reminded of that one Nutcracker one that we did last year when I got confused because of the way they were acting, and then I realized, oh wait, this is another case where these are not supposed to like I thought all these people were in their 30s.
yeah.
And then there was at some point I was like, oh wait, they're supposed to be playing somebody younger than they are.
Yeah. Yeah, which is usually the case in
I know,
Hollywood in
but it just
general,
it
but
just felt so weird.
she was so patronizing
Yeah.
to Beth repeatedly and was just so annoying. And why in the world, if you were renovating a house, why you wouldn't want all of the help you could get? And then
The whole
Joe,
thing
like,
with yelling at Teddy, who's Lori in this
yeah,
version, for bringing the tools and like,
yeah,
well,
that made no
why are
sense.
you yelling at him for helping? This is so
It was
dumb.
ridiculous. Oh, we don't need your help. We're not a charity case. Give me a break. And that's the thing is that the March sisters weren't resistant to help. They weren't prideful in that way.
Hmm.
They were actually going and helping others, with
Yeah,
what they would get. Like if anything, Joe would be somebody who'd be like, okay, now let's pay it forward, I
yeah,
think.
I could see that. Yeah,
Yeah, so that didn't ring true at all, and that was very annoying. I don't know. They're both just terrible. I hated both of them so much. And really, I do think that this Little Women 2018 is the one of the worst movies I've ever seen in a movie theater. I absolutely hated it. And just the way that I don't know, the way that they handled the conflict, the way that they portrayed Joe was just so irritating. And when Amy finally does, right, but when Amy finally gets back at her, I'm like, yeah, because you were so rude and unkind to your sister. Like in the book,
Mm-hmm.
she's just kind of a little bit thoughtless, and just
Mm-hmm.
sort of treating Amy like a, child
Yeah.
that wants to go to the opera. But she's not like outright mean, and saying mean things about her paintings. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, that's really good, cruel what you just said about your sister and her paintings. Like, what are
Mm-hmm.
you doing? I don't know.
I think that's probably also part of why the reaction in the March Sister Christmas Time felt so over the top, like the tweeting scandal thing, because her reaction was to get mad that she tore up the floor, but like they're renovating the house.
Yeah,
Like
that made
why
no
why
sense. And why wouldn't you want to find the wood floor? That makes no sense. Like she had literally found value.
yeah.
She'd taken up the vinyl. And so,
And
yeah,
not
why
that it
you wouldn't want.
matters, not that it matters, but like the hidden fireplace. Like am I wrong that this house has been in their family for years? Like I thought that was like a point of
Yeah.
this. So how did they not know about this fireplace?
Well, I mean, I get that there's sometimes like layers to the wall, and once you dig in old houses like that, you sometimes find stuff.
But you'd think like there would be a chimney on the outside. So wouldn't
Yeah,
that be a clue that there's a fireplace somewhere?
because these old houses had fireplaces in basically every room
Yeah.
at one point, and so some of them were kind of covered over. But yeah, you would think that you would see the chimney of some kind. I guess if maybe that had been covered over, but I would think there would be something up there you'd see.
Just add it to the list of things that don't make sense.
I mean, it's like again, Jo is always kind of insufferable, even in the book, because she has got that independent spirit, but it just doesn't translate that well to modern times. I think because nothing's stopping her. Like in our time, pretty much she can do whatever she wants, with her
Hmm.
life. So there's nothing really stopping these characters. Whereas in the
That is
past,
true.
there were, things that she
Yes.
was, or, and there was sort of a expected manners, expected, kind of thing that she was supposed to do.
Hmm.
And so now we don't have almost any of those expectations. And so you've got to just make her like really annoying. And then it's the same with Meg. It's like, well, the solution is to make her like make her like an easy woman for like it's so bizarre. Like in all the world, I would never have expected like that would be the translation for Meg. If anything, I would have expected her to maybe be like a little mousy and a little bit like a
Yeah.
little bit of a prude,
That that
not
make that makes
making
more
out with
sense.
guys in the basement of the school because she's homeschooled. But when she gives in 2018, when she gives that those crayons to Beth, I was just like, this is an adult woman. This is not a child that you give, color this. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's terrible. I just really hate both these movies. So, congrats. You got me on. And like, I mean, I guess you say lean into the cheese, but I don't know. I just don't know if it's possible. I really don't to do modern Little Women. I just don't know.
You'd have
Because,
to have somebody who had like a strong vision and really wants to do this. Because both of these felt like somebody who was like, well, let's just take this famous story and do something with it. And they didn't really care about the story. You have to have somebody who cares about the story. But then again, I would say if you care about the story, you're probably going to want to do something set in the time that the book was set in.
yeah, I just don't think it can work. I don't know. Maybe someday somebody will prove me wrong, but I just don't think these archetypes translate well. I just don't
I
to
think
modern time.
I think you probably are onto something with like the expectations of women. Like that
Yeah.
probably is why it doesn't translate very well because you don't have those with a modern setting. Like that's
Yeah.
why it doesn't really make sense or her
Like maybe
motivations.
you could do just like a little part of Little Women. Like you have it be about four sisters and maybe they're
Hmm.
having like a tough Christmas, no presents. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
like take just like a piece.
I think the way to do it would be to take the basic story you'd have to change the character somewhat because Joe, I can't see a modern Joe being even semi-likable. Like with both of these, I kind of hated her.
Like the only way I could see is if you have like she's wanting to be a writer, she's not successful, and then she decides to write about her sisters, and then like
Yeah.
maybe if you just kind of focused on that and didn't have most of the other trauma that makes her super unlikable, then I don't know. But I just think it's a bad endeavor that shouldn't be attempted.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm always one like I like seeing different versions of things. That's why this entire podcast exists. But
Yeah,
like if you're gonna do something, go do a story you like because it didn't feel like in either of these cases
yeah,
the people making the story liked the story.
yeah. I
They
agree.
had to change too much of it.
How about in the March one where Amy the equivalent of falling in the pond was the skating was getting hit by the water heater?
I found it
I was laughing.
I don't know if funny is the right word, but I found it kind of funny that in both versions, Amy ends up very bloody for whatever reason,
Yeah,
because it's a
it is.
horse riding accident in the
That's true.
2018
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, and that was so random. Like, why are they on horses all of a sudden? Like, it was so funny. I'm like,
I don't know. Well, I guess people in modern day don't ice skate, so we can't do ice skating. Let's do horseback riding instead. Like I feel like they could have done a straight adaptation of that. Why can't they go ice skating? I don't
speaking
know.
of straight, did you feel that that Lori in the new one that he might not be straight?
N Yeah, no. But I think that's the actor. I think it's just him.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea if he's what
I guess
his
I don't
preferences
know
are,
either.
but he
Let me
it
look him
just
up.
every part of the depiction of the character, because obviously an actor can play any type of sexuality, but the way that they had him dressed, the way that they had him act, the way that they had him interact with Joe, just everything like was fitting in those stereotypes. He did not scream, "I'm straight."
I
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I had the same thought. I don't see anything like just a cursory glance on his Wikipedia page. There's nothing about a significant other or anything. So I don't know. I think it's just him and not that it makes a difference, but he just did not feel right for the part.
No, he was just not like, and it's in a way, it's kind of a shame because that could have been an interesting wrinkle on the Lori Joe dynamic in a
Hmm.
modern retelling of being like, you know what, I actually might be gay, like whatever, that could be interesting. Why not?
It
And
could be interesting. You wouldn't be
yeah,
able to do the Amy Laurie thing, but
no,
you don't have to
who
do that,
cares?
especially if you're putting
Yeah.
your own spin on it.
I mean, that's not even in the original first book, because the it's originally two books.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the way to go for a modern Little Women is just focus on the first book.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what the March Sisters at Christmas Time did.
Kind of, yeah. But it does bring in Professor Bear.
Yeah. It,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I just, I don't think it knew what it wanted to be other than was like, well, we need to make a Christmas movie. Little Women have Christmas in it. Let's do that, except modern.
So I guess Lucas Gabriel has come out and said he is straight. So way to go. I'm just
Okay.
saying that the way they styled him and the way they had him act, that's how it felt.
I mean, I had the same thought, so
Yeah. Um, and I mean, I think Leah Thompson was probably on set for 3 days in this movie. Like she really is barely in it. Maybe a week. Maybe.
was there anybody in this that you liked as an actor?
I mean, I think that Beth is all right in this.
Hmm.
She gets real sick and
I will say the only time that I had even the smallest flicker of emotion was towards the end where she wants to go to the sea. It's like, okay, that's slightly
Mhm.
emotional. But then
And
I
I actually I don't think any of the actors in either of these really did a bad job with what they were given. I think they're all
no,
like
yeah.
serviceable.
Well,
I mean,
like I
except
said,
for Lucas, but even he like
he was fine. I think it was
it's just the
just
material.
some yeah, something about the way the character was. I don't think it was him
Yeah,
as an actor.
right. Like I wouldn't be hesitant to have any of these in other future any of these actors in future films because
Hmm.
they did a fine job with what they were given. It just was a flawed concept from the start.
Yeah. Well, for both of them.
Probably the worst person as far as acting in either of these movies is probably Caitlin Doubleday's Meg. Her whole performance was so annoying to me and patronizing and just not authentic at all. Because, like, yeah, the Joes are very annoying in both of them, but I just thought her performance was probably the weakest for me of anybody. I thought it was really bad. And especially when she gives that vision board, I was just like, what are you doing? Why are you treating her this way? Like she's 5. If she's seriously treating her sister like she's a kindergartner.
I think my least favorite person, this is probably a me thing, but John Shea as Mr. Lawrence. Partly, probably because the only thing I really know him as is Lex Luthor in Lois and Clark.
Uh-huh.
So he just seems evil to me. The whole scene with him trying to get Teddy and John, like tried to give them a pep talk or whatever that stupid drunken scene was, like trying to get them to go after the marches, like telling them they need to each make one of the marches fall in love. Like he just
Uh-huh.
seemed evil to me. And maybe that's a me problem because I know him as Lex Luthor, but he was just, I did not like that character.
Mm. Yeah. It's just, yeah, I can see that. He wasn't the best, but not as phony as I thought that Caitlin Doubleday's performance was. Just felt really phony to me,
Mm,
you know. But Justin Bruning it was fun to see him as Teddy in this because he's really come around to a very extremely handsome. I mean, he was good looking in this, but he's gotten a good trainer. Let's put it that way. He's like now, if you watch Sweet Magnolias or there was a movie called the Reindeer Games Homecoming. He plays a movie star in there, and whew,
so does he do other like Hallmark rom-com things now?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and he is extremely attractive. Right? Sweet Magnolias is now they're going on to what is it, the 4th season, I think.
Mm.
And then this Reindeer Games Homecoming.
The only thing that like for most of these people I did not really recognize them. He only stood out to me because I vaguely remembered this, but back in 2011 they tested a pilot for a Wonder Woman series like after Smallville, and he was Steve Trevor, which I never saw that
Uh,
because it never aired. But that's the only reason that he stuck out to me was because he was supposed to be Steve Trevor, but then
yeah.
that never went to
Well,
series.
so on Sweet Magnolias, he plays a professional baseball player. Like he's just
Mm.
really, I mean, again, he's good looking in this movie, but he definitely like stepped it up because something happened between 2012 and like 2019 for Justin Bruning, and he's really stepped it up as far as his physique. But I mean, he was pretty good in this. I mean, I don't know if you ever truly buy Amy and Laurie in any version. I think that Greta Gerwig did just about as good a job with that as you could do in her version. I think Timothée
Hmm.
Chalamet and Florence Pugh have really good chemistry.
Yeah.
And she did a really good job, I think, in that one of starting that connection really early. And
Hmm.
so it didn't feel as much sort of whiplash. And also there was always, I think in her version, always a bit of a disconnect between Joe and Laurie. And so it just made more sense. I think that 2019 movie did Laurie and Amy better than any version.
Hmm.
And I think it just did Amy better than almost any other version.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I like better about the 1994 film as far as Amy goes, is that they had two actresses. I wish that more of them decided to do
Hmm.
that, to have two actresses, because I think that is very effective.
I will say that is one of the only like good things I have to say about the 2018 one. I thought they found good actors to be like they seemed like the same person in both the flashbacks and the modern day one at parts to
Uh-huh.
have two actors for both of them. Because I always like in the ones that I've seen, I think it works best to have different actors. It just because I don't like it when people play too like they're too old to play young. It just feels
Yeah.
weird to me. I prefer that they have a younger person. And
Hmm.
as much as I
But they
didn't
didn't,
really
did they
like,
have that in 2018?
yeah, they did. That's why I say
They
because
did?
I didn't notice it first. I had to look it up. So that's why I felt like they did a good job getting two actors for each person because they
I
felt
just
natural.
watched it and I don't even remember. I guess, yeah, they did have young. I don't even remember.
That's why I say it's one of the only
Uh,
things that I can say that it's a definite plus for that version. Like the
yeah.
story was meh, but
Oh.
like I think they did a good job casting an older and a younger person to play the same character.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't like either of these movies. I really don't.
Another thing that doesn't matter, but the person who played John in the March Sisters of Christmas, Charlie Hoffheimer,
Uh-huh.
he was just a random person. He's the security guard at the end of The Village, the M. Night Shyamalan film, which I feel like I'm one of the only people who actually really likes that movie. But
Yeah. I know it has its defenders. I am not one of them, but I know it has its fans.
that's just
Uh,
I like finding just random things that like, oh yeah, I know that guy from this one tiny role from this one thing. And that's the only thing I know him from.
yeah. Huh. He was fine. I liked him pretty good.
Yeah, he was fine.
I mean, I didn't buy that he would be interested in Meg because she was so annoying to me. Like, why would you be interested in this patronizing, obnoxious woman?
After they got through the drunken part at the beginning, all of the guys in this movie were fine. I'm not counting Mr. Lawrence as one of the guys. I mean all the guys that they eventually
Yeah,
marry. I thought they were all fine.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that.
As opposed to the women they're pursuing, I don't like any of
Yeah,
them.
like move on. Stay away from this family. Oh, yeah.
And in the 2018 one, I thought it was so random that his character is played by Stuart Edge, who's a YouTuber.
Oh, really?
Like I remember watching his videos years ago. Like I don't think he does much anymore. I haven't seen him for ages. I don't even know if I'm subscribed, but I just know him as a YouTuber. I'm pretty sure this is like his only big acting role.
Oh,
Looks
that's
like most of his
interesting.
credits on IMDb recently are executive producer. So he's a behind the camera person now. It felt so weird that they would have a YouTuber be this main role in a movie when he's not like acting was never a thing that he was known for.
Huh. Yeah, that is interesting. Well, so the director and writer of this 2018, her name's Claire Niederprom. She has gone on to make many a Hallmark movie since this. And I kind of always joke, I'm like, I'll never forgive her for her Little Women, but she has made some good Hallmark movies.
I guess I could see that. I mean, most of the Hallmark movies I've seen are better than this, but I can see the vibe of a Hallmark movie because I could see like Hallmark trying to do like a modern day retelling of a classic story like this.
Well,
Whether
I
it was
mean, they
Lifetime that
have
did the
done
other
they've
one.
well, they say that with Jane Austen, but usually it's only a name only.
Hmm.
Like they'll have no actual connection to the actual story. But she has done some pretty good ones. Like there's one called An American in Austin from this year, about this modern girl who, through various magic, ends up in the world of Pride and Prejudice.
Also,
And
this
that
is like
was
a pattern for her. She just likes taking classic novels and doing TV
But
movies
that
with.
one was much better than this. Much better. And then probably her best movie that she's done for Hallmark is called Her Pen Pal. which was very charming, about this girl who has this pen pal growing up, and then they kind of lose touch with each other. And then she's over in France for her best friend's wedding. And she's got this ex there. She needs a date, various conferences. She ends up meeting back up with her old pen pal, who is from France.
Mm.
And it was very, very charming. I see that's the thing that's I think different between this movie and Hallmark movies is that Hallmark movies, everybody's charming. Everybody's likable. Everybody's
Yeah,
nice. Like, and so you don't have these insufferable, annoying characters that
I
are
can't
in
think of
this.
anybody from this movie who I could say is charming. Like
No.
even the guys who are supposed to be kind of charming, nothing comes to mind as far
Like
as
Professor
like
Baird to
anybody
me was the
was.
closest that I would get. That he
I
was
suppose, but
he
nothing
was
pops
kind of
into mind
hunky
as
and
like charming.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. And she did another one this year called Savoring Paris, which I liked quite a bit. So she's better in her she's much better in likable, sweet rom-coms. Stay in that lane, Claire. Don't go over to don't don't massacre any more of my books, please.
I mean, you got to start somewhere. This was like her training wheels,
Yeah,
maybe.
I guess a job's a job. So and I think it was her only her second directing job.
Yeah, I looked at her IMDb. That was her only her second one. So
Yeah, so
apparently she has improved.
she has. Yeah. I'm getting closer to forgiving her every time. But now I've watched it again. So now you've brought it back up to my memory. So
Uh, yeah, I'm glad you suggested doing both of these at the same time because my original thought was just to do the Christmas one because it's Christmas and I'm doing this for a Christmas episode. But I'm glad to get this out of the way.
yeah. But the 2018, it pretty much is a Christmas movie throughout. There's
Yeah,
Christmas
I
trees
mean,
throughout and
Little Women,
everything.
it has Christmas elements in every version because it's such a big part of the story. So it works.
Yeah.
It works.
But yeah, like we said, I just don't think that a modern retelling works because you just don't have those same limitations. So the
Hmm.
behavior of the characters just doesn't make as much sense. So when you try to force it, it just makes the characters really unlikable and
Hmm.
annoying. And so no more. No more.
Yeah, for both of these, and I guess the one that I can't remember the name of, the web series, I cannot think of anything that I liked about any of them. And I'm including the web series because I've forgotten it completely. Like I remember like vague snippets of it, but like the fact that it did not stay with me at all probably speaks to the quality of it. Like if it had been good, I think I would remember it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I'm glad I'm doing this as like the first episode of the Christmas series because I'm glad to get I hope that the other ones that I've picked out to be Christmas episodes are better because I don't want to accidentally release a terrible one on Christmas or something. Get the one bad one out of the way first.
Yeah. I'm glad I was help you through this painful experience.
Yeah, and help me get the 2018 one out of the way too, because I wasn't looking forward to that. Because eventually,
Yeah.
I will go back and do a bunch more Little Women versions. And the 2018 one, I've heard so much that it was not good, so I was never looking forward to that one. So,
You didn't have to drag me down with you, Jonathan.
I mean, you suggested it, so I'm glad we got it out of the way, and I don't have to go back to it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Never again. I'll never watch it again.
No, I have zero plans to ever watch either of these again. If somebody at gunpoint said you must watch one, I would pick the 2018 one, but only because I just really hated everyone in the March Sisters of Christmas. It was so I was like I was annoyed. Like through the whole movie, I was just I hate all of these people.
Yeah, they were really bad. And I just can't stand like condescension, when someone's patronizing another person. Like
Hmm.
that is just like I'd rather have somebody be outright mean to me and like
Hmm.
yell at me than be like a
I,
snob, and
and that's
condescending.
like they're all supposed to have faults. Like the in the book, they all have faults, but like they don't make them likable. Like
Yeah.
they're supposed to be an even. you have to like these characters. Like they're good characters.
Like I would have shoved that vision board in Meg's face. I would not have.
I don't feel like Beth is the only one that they even attempted to make likable, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I
Like
agree.
the guys were fine, but they're the guys. Like of the sisters are the ones you're
Yeah.
supposed to care about, and I only liked Beth in all of
Yeah, I
these.
agree. In both. I agree.
Oh, I have to mention before we get to the end, this speaking of Beth, the scene where she's playing the piano and like dramatically faints and falls off the piano bench. I just burst out laughing.
Yeah.
I don't, it was not supposed to be funny, but there was something about the way they filmed that. It just
Yeah, that was funny.
seemed hilarious to me for whatever reason.
Yeah, it was painful. Painful.
Yeah. I don't know why I expected the March Sister Christmas to be like I expected to be fine. I figured I would be maybe a little bored, but I thought it'd be fine. I did not expect to be just like actively hating everyone in the movie.
Yeah. Well, at least we've done a public service.
Yes,
People
don't
can be
watch these
grateful.
movies.
We've done a public service. We've notified the world. Do not watch these terrible movies.
Yeah. The if you want to watch Little Women, there are so many other versions that you could
Yeah.
watch that are a million times better.
Yeah, like there's a Broadway musical, Little Women the musical, that
Hmm.
if you have Broadway HD, you can watch it, and it's
Okay.
pretty solid. It's pretty good.
I'll have to
And
look
I'm
for that one the
excited
next time
because
I do Little Women.
yeah, and if you watch it, you can I think you can do like a 5-day trial or something like that of Broadway HD. So you could log on and watch it and then just cancel the account if you wanted to watch it. But
I need to look into that because there's a few Broadway shows that I'm pretty sure I've seen that they have on there that
mm-hmm,
that I've thought about watching or doing for a podcast. So
mm-hmm.
I need to get Broadway HD at some point.
Yeah, if you ever do every version ever of what they call the perfumery stories, it's a play that was made into Shop Around the Corner, and then Good Old Summertime. You've got Mail.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the
okay.
same story, retold. Anyway, there's a amazing Broadway HD pro shot of She Loves Me, which is that same story, the
Okay.
perfumery story. So that would be a really good episode of every version ever with Shop Around the Corner, Good Old Summertime. You've got Mail. She Loves Me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to add that to my extremely long list of stories.
Yeah, yeah,
So many that I want to get to, but I only have so much time.
sure.
I need like three more of me.
Yeah. All right. Well, you did it. Did we do it?
Yes,
Okay.
finally got these out of the way.
Yes, never again. I'm never watching it again.
Me neither. Yeah. Well, thanks for suffering through these with me.
You're welcome.
Next time we'll have to talk about something better.
So you're doing Little Women this Christmas season?
Well, for Christmas, I'm going to do Christmas versions of other stories that I've already done. So I'm doing some Christmas
Oh,
episodes of the Wind in the Willows TV series. There's a Pinocchio Christmas movie.
ooh, it's rough.
We'll see. I don't know. I haven't
Yeah.
watched it yet. It's stop motion, so maybe it'll be okay. I don't
Well,
know.
I just don't. I'm not the biggest fan of the Rankin Bass shorts. I'm kind of a. I'm not. They're not my favorite. So, and
Well,
that
they're
one.
not mine either, but it can't
Um,
be worse than this. Like it's
no, it's
animation.
not worse than this.
It'll be fun to watch once, maybe.
Maybe. But yeah, this like I said, I do think that Little Women is one because usually I don't watch movies I like think I might hate in the theater, like so I
Yeah.
do think that this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in the theater. I really do.
I think that's one thing that helped me not completely hate it. Like I was just bored through the entire thing. I think you
Uh-huh.
lowered my expectations so far that it wasn't as awful as I thought it was going to
Oh,
be. Plus, I had just watched The March Sisters at Christmas Time, and I was so actively annoyed at literally everyone that this one was like, okay, this is just boring. I don't actively hate this movie.
see, I did actively hate it, especially Joe. I just thought she was just insufferable. I just
I
thought
mean,
she was
she definitely is
so,
insufferable,
oh my
but
gosh.
the other one, she was also insufferable, and everyone else was insufferable, and I hated everyone in the Much Simpson Christmas Time except Beth. So
Yeah, they were
this was
both
a
terrible.
2018 was a very slight upgrade, but not an upgrade enough for me to recommend it. I would still say I don't like this movie.
Yeah, they're both terrible. Stay away. So, all right. Well, it's always fun to chat.
Yes, it is. We'll have to chat about something nicer next time.
Okay, yeah. Put me in for something good.
Well, until we find something good, do you want to let people know where they can find you if they would like more from you?
Yeah, you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, and then at Hallmarkies Podcast. We're starting up Christmas coverage. I don't know when this will air, but we just got the Hallmark announcement this last week, so we're gearing up to start before you know it. So it's very fun.
Well, this one will probably go up around the 1st of December, so
Oh, okay. So
you'll
we'll
you'll
be
be deep into the Christmas season
deep,
for Hallmark.
deep, yeah, into it.
Plenty
So
for people to listen to if they want Hallmark Christmas content.
yeah, check out Hallmarkies Podcast. Great time with a bunch of my friends, and so it's
And
really
I'm
fun.
sure you'll be talking about movies that you like a whole lot better than these two.
Yes.
Okay, well, until next time.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Every Version Ever. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My link tree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.